Welcome or welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be showing you how to make these crochet leg warmers. These are very beginner friendly and I'm going to break down step by step on how you can make these too. These are all the materials you're going to need, and if you make these, be sure to tag me because I want to see yours too. First, we're going to start off by making our ribbing. So we're going to do a slip knot, and I'm going to chain 5, but if you want your ribbing to be thicker, chain more. In our ribbing, we're going to use half double crochet, so you're going to yarn over and insert into your first stitch and pull through all 3. And we're going to put 1 half double crochet in all 5 stitches. Once you put your last half double crochet, you're going to chain 1 and turn, and now we're going to be working into the back loop onlys for the rest of the pattern, but we're still going to do half double crochets. But for the last stitch, I like to go through both loops because it looks better. So you're just going to continue this pattern until you reach your desired length on where you want your leg warmers to stop on your legs. And I just want to clarify that this is the top part of your leg warmers. So I did mine till I reached 10 inches, and keep this number in mind because you're going to have to do the same thing for the other leg warmer. Next, I'm going to join both ends together, and we're going to do this by slip stitching. So after everything is stitched together, I like to flip it inside out to hide the seam. Now we're going to start our first round. We're going to do double crochets all around this ribbing, and they are placed evenly all the way around. So I'm going to start off by chaining 2 and then just putting double crochets all the way around. So this is an example of what you don't want to do. You can see there was a big gap, so you just want to put the stitch closer. And this is probably the hardest row because you have to like 4 stitches, but after this round, everything is going to go by fast. As you can see, I'm like taking it out and seeing what stitches look better because it's really trial and error. If the gap is too big, take it out, move it closer. That's basically what I'm doing. So I'm coming up on my last stitch, and you want to make sure you're not adding in stitches that doesn't need to be there. So you can see the chain 2 from the beginning. You don't want to add an extra double crochet in that same stitch. So once you reach the end, you're going to slip stitch into that first double crochet. So this is what it should be looking like so far. Round 1 is completed. So now we're going to move on to round 2. We're going to chain 2, and then we're going to turn our work. And with each new row, we're going to turn our work just so we don't have that line of demarcation, and we want to hide that. So we're going to go into our first stitch. It might be really small, but don't skip that stitch because you're going to have a gap if you do. And we're just going to add double crochets into each stitch all the way around. Now we're coming up at our last stitch, and if you pull that chain 2 we made at the beginning, you can see that it's attached to that stitch, so you don't need to put another double crochet in that. So now we're going to slip stitch it into the first double crochet. Now we're at round 3, and I'm going to switch colors. So if you're not switching colors, don't worry about this part. And if you want to switch colors, you can choose to do it how I'm doing it, or you can tie a knot, but I like this way better. And it's kind of hard to explain, so just watch the video. So with round 3, we're just going to be doing triple crochets. So you're going to chain 3 to start it off, and remember to turn your work. And for this round, we're going to do back loops only, but for that first stitch, since it's so small, we're going to go through both loops. You might have to tussle with it a little bit. And after I got it in, I realized I did a double crochet instead of triple, so don't be like me. Make sure you're doing triple crochets for this round. And you may have to tug on the other yarn to make sure it's tight because it probably loosened up when you did that. So I'm going to put triple crochets in the back loops only. And you're going to repeat this all the way around. So I'm going to meet you guys when I get to my last stitch. And once I worked a few stitches with the new color, I like to take some scissors and leave a tail and cut the old color. You can also choose to weave over the tails as you go, but I prefer to do it at the end because I think it looks better. Now we're coming up at our last stitch, so I'm going to work the last triple crochet into the last stitch. But I will say, if you're working with the new color, you have to go into all the stitches, and it doesn't really apply how I explained it in the beginning, because if you don't go to all the way to the end, you're gonna have a gap. I hope that makes sense, but if there's a big gap, then you probably should put another double or triple crochet in that space, and then you're just gonna slip stitch it like regular. Now we're moving on to round 4, so we're going to start off by chaining 3, and don't forget to turn your work, and we're going to add double crochets all the way around into each stitch. Okay, we made it to the end, and now to end off this round, I'm going to slip stitch it into the first double crochet. Now we just completed row 4, so now we're going to repeat this same exact thing for row 5. Okay, so this is what it should be looking like up until this point. Now we're going to start on round 6, and I'm going to switch colors again. We're going to start off by chaining 2, and with this round it's going to be more of a mesh pattern. So we're going to chain 2, skip 1, and then put a half double crochet into that next stitch. Then you're going to chain 1 and then skip 1 and put a half double crochet into that next stitch. And that's going to be the repeating pattern all the way around. And once I worked a few half double crochets, I like to cut my yarn from the previous color. I'm coming up on the end, so I'm going to slip stitch it into that chain 1 space we made at the beginning. And if you have an extra stitch, it doesn't have to be perfect, just make it work, or you can skip more than 1 stitch. You're not going to be able to tell. Now we're moving on to round 7, and this is going to be our first increase row. So you're going to start off by chaining 2, and remember to turn your work. And I just noticed I forgot to turn my work on this round, but that's okay. So you're going to start off by putting 1 double crochet in your stitch, and then 2 double crochet in the next stitch. And I know it's hard sometimes to get the hook inside the stitch, so if you want to work it in the spaces, you can do that as well. But we're basically putting 1 double crochet in 1 stitch, and then in that next stitch we're going to put 2 double crochets, and we're going to alternate all the way around. Now we're at round 8, so you're going to chain 2, turn your work, and this is going to be a normal row, so we're going to put 1 double crochet into each stitch all the way around. Okay, so I'm coming up on the last stitch for row 8. Work a double crochet like normal, and then I'm going to slip stitch it into that first double crochet you made at the beginning. Now we're moving on to round 9. I want to switch out my colors, and this is going to be our last increase row. So I'm going to start off by chaining 2 again, and remember to turn your work. And then we're just going to repeat row 7. So once you chain your 2, in that first stitch you're going to put 1 double crochet, and then in that following stitch you're going to put 2 double crochets. And you're just going to keep alternating all the way until you get back to the beginning. Okay, now we're coming up on our last few stitches. So if you did switch colors like I did, make sure you go into all of the stitches, and you don't want to have any gaps, so just make sure you go all the way until the end before you slip stitch it into that first double crochet. And I wanted to show you guys an example of what I was talking about. So if you don't go all the way to the end, you can see in a few seconds that you're going to have a gap right there, and that's how you know you need to add in another double crochet. Alright, so now we're done with all our increase rows, and we're moving on to round 10. So you're going to chain 2, turn your work, and you're going to put 1 double crochet into each stitch all the way around. And you're going to do this for round 11 also. Now we're coming up on the end of round 11, and we're just going to end it off like normal. And this is what it should be looking like after you've done 11 rounds. So now I'm going to change colors again, and I'm going to go back to that light green color, and we're going to work 3 rounds of triple crochets. No more increases, just put 1 triple crochet into each stitch all the way around for 3 rounds. And I'm going to meet you back at the end of round 14. Okay, so now we're coming up at the end of round 14. I'm just going to finish off the last few and end it like normal. And this is what it should be looking like so far. Now I'm going to switch my colors again, and we're going to go back into that mesh pattern that we did at the beginning. And I'm going to start by chaining 2 and turn your work. And then we're going to skip 1 stitch, and then we're going to put a half double crochet into the following stitch. And that's how you're going to create your first mesh pattern. So chain 1, skip 1, half double crochet into the next stitch, and follow the same pattern all the way around. Okay, so we're coming up on the last few stitches, and we're gonna, once we get to the end, we're just gonna end it like normal. Slip stitch it into that space. So now we're at row 16. We're gonna start off by chaining 2, turn your work, and we're gonna put 1 double crochet into each stitch, or if you prefer to work it into the space, you can do that also. Just make sure you're not adding extra double crochets. And we're gonna do this for the entire round. Okay, we're coming up at the end. I'm gonna put my last double crochet, and then I'm gonna slip stitch it back into that first double crochet, and I'm gonna change out my last color. This is gonna be the last color change. Well, this is what it should be looking like so far. Super cute. I'm gonna do the last color change, and for the last 3 rounds we're just going to be putting double crochets into each stitch. But I'm going to start off by chaining 2, of course, and then turning my work. So I'm going to meet you guys at the end of round 19. Okay, once you get to the end, I want to show you how I tie mine off. So I just chain 2 and then I cut my yarn and then I just pull through with my hook and it's pulled tight. So this is what it should be looking like after you completed all the rounds, and now you just have to make another one that is identical to this one. Now we're going to move on and make the tie, and what this is going to do is make sure it doesn't slide down your leg. And this is just 100 single crochets. And you can also chain more or less depending on how long you want yours to be. So after I finish, I'm just gonna tie off and cut the yarn. I like to leave a little tail, but you can always trim it down later. Next, I want to show you how I weave mine in. It's nothing too special. I just like to stick my hook in wherever I want it at and then just pull through with that tail that we left at the end. But you're basically gonna weave in and out until you reach all the way back to the beginning. And once you make it back to the beginning, you can tie it off into a bow. That's how I like to do mine. And you're just going to repeat the same thing on the other leg warmer. And like I said earlier, you can trim down the yarn tails right now if you want. I ended up trimming down mine, so. Now we gotta weave in all the ends, so I like to flip mine inside out. I know we have some yarns that's in the front, but we're gonna do that after we weave in the tails from the outside. So I like to tie knots. I like to double knot all of the yarn tails just to make sure they're nice and secure. And then I just weave in all the tails, and there's no special way on how I do it. I just make sure I go in different directions. What I do like to do is make sure you're weaving into the same color just to hide it better. But I'm just gonna weave in every single tail and just make sure everything is super secure. So once I weaved in all the ends on the wrong side, I like to flip it back on the right side. And because I have some yarn tails that's hanging out on the right side, what I like to do is get my hook and pull it through on the wrong side and flip it back over and weave it in on that wrong side. And one way you can tell the difference between the wrong and right side is by looking at the seam we made at the beginning on the ribbing. So if you see the seam, that means you're on the wrong side, and if it's hidden, if you don't see it, that means you're on the right side. So now I am taking my hook and I'm pulling all the yarn tails back into the inside, which is the wrong side, so I can weave it in on that wrong side. And you're gonna do this for all the tails that's shown on the right side of your leg warmer. So now everything is flipped back into the wrong side, so I'm just going to double knot it again and just weave in the rest of the tails.